Welcome to 5 after midnight. The truth is out there. One.
One night, when I was around 6 years old, I was sleeping. I don't remember the beginning of the dream, but I sure as hell remember the end. In our old house, there was a balcony overlooking the front door foyer area, and if you jumped off of it, you would definitely break some bones. Anyway, I was always really scared of heights, so naturally I would never even consider jumping off of it. But in my dream, I did. I floated downward in a laying position to the floor where some kind of beam of light shone down on me. Looking back on it, it reminds me of the UFOs on television when they abducted a cow or something. Anyway, once I got to the ground, like any other falling dream, I woke up. But when I woke up in that spot. There I was, around 6 years old, laying on the floor in the middle of the night in front of my front door. There is absolutely no way, shape, or form my parents would place me there, and I have never had a problem with sleepwalking. When I woke up, I immediately ran back upstairs and went to bed again. I was scared shitless. Yet somehow, I really don't even think that I brought it up or even thought to bring it up until years later. Every time I tried to tell somebody in my family, or anyone for that matter, they all said I had a very overactive imagination, but I know that it happened. When I was around that age, I also had random stretch marks on my stomach. I wasn't fat or gaining weight fast or anything, so this might be in conjunction with what happened. Lots of random bruises, too. I might have been abducted by aliens, who knows, but I definitely feel crazy right now sharing this.
2.
1996 had been a bad year. My first marriage ended, my father died, my job had taken a turn for the worse. So after dealing with all of that, when finally I had a few days with nothing to do, I gave myself a present, a Greek cruise. It was my 31st birthday, and I found myself in the middle of the night walking around the sleeping cruise ship. I found my way outside and was taking in the moon, the distant lights of an unnamed island and some other cruise ships, the cruel breeze of the ocean. It was a nice moment, thinking about what I had been through and getting ready to start again in so many ways. Then I saw it, a light at the horizon, seemingly following one of the other cruise ships. As I looked at it, trying to identify what it was, it moved across the ocean faster than any boat I'd ever seen. It went to the next cruise ship and hovered beside it for a few minutes. Then it started growing, and before I could realize that it's actually coming towards the ship I was on, it was already there. It matched my ship's speed and seemed to hover just a few feet away from the handrails and just a few feet above the ocean. We were going at a fairly fast clip, and I could see the ship move up and now again with the waves under my feet. Whatever it was, it looked like a fat pillar, a tower of some sort. A cylinder of maybe 10 feet radius and taller than the ship, my guess would have been about 50 feet tall. It had bright colored lights, almost like flooded lights, and all around its top, middle, and bottom. The lights were so bright that they made it difficult to see the body of the thing, but I could almost guess a circular opening or portholes in places. I realized that the thing didn't just pick up any spot beside my ship to stop. It had stopped directly in front of me, the only person standing there. I didn't think this was a coincidence. Then it started moving again, very fast, towards the next ship ahead of us. Only then I remembered that I had a camera hanging from my neck, but by the time I got it up to my eye, the object was far away, indistinguishable from any of the other lights of the ocean. I have no explanation for any of this. I have been a skeptic my entire life, and I base my life on facts and logic. This is the one event that I can never explain or understand.
3.
One day, my sister was scratching at her arm and had a little bump about 5 centimeters up from her elbow. She kept scratching at it, and when we asked her what it was, she replied that she didn't know and that she had just woken up with it. She sat down, and we were all curious by this point, so I asked her what she was going to do about it. She said she wanted to cut it out. So she's got a scalpel, because she's a nurse and she's pretty handy with that type of thing. And she got some gauze, and she asked me to hold the gauze in case it started bleeding. She only had to make a tiny little cut because she was going to squeeze out the pus. When she squeezed, no blood came out, just a tiny little bit of metal. It was about 1/5 of the size of a grain of rice, and she said it was itching her like crazy. We were all pretty confused. We put it in a container that she had in her medical bag, a little clear one with a yellow lid, so we could have a look at it, and she could take it to work and ask people what they thought it was. A few days later, I asked her whatever happened to the bit of metal. She had no idea what I was talking about. She did have a tiny little mark on her arm, but nobody that was there remembers it except for me. There was about 5 of us there at the time.
4.
I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico. Yep, the Roswell. Anyway, one night, right when my clock switched to 1:30 on a Friday in the year 1999, my brother and I were shooting the shit trying to fall asleep. I was 8, he was 5. Everyone else in the house was completely passed out, and suddenly this incredibly blinding light fills the entire room through the window. And I mean, I have never experienced a more powerful light in my entire life, followed by the most deafening, metallic, exploding sound I have ever heard. I mean, it was immediate. Just the flash and the boom. I thought I imagined it, but my brother started crying, and I could hear my dad scrambling, my mom swearing, and my 2 sisters crying as well. My dad grabbed a gun and bolted outside, setting off our alarm. I followed him outside. The sky was completely clear, not a single cloud in the sky. My dad had finished a run around the house and came back to the driveway, and he told me to go back inside because it was 3 in the morning. I thought it was weird that he said that because, like I said, my clock had just hit 1:30, but I ignored him and ran back to my room. My dad settled everyone down, and I rolled over to go back to sleep. My clock was shining at me. It read 3:15 a.m.
5.
This happened about 3 years ago. I had just gotten home from work, and I was pulling into my driveway. If I remember right, it was about 7 o'clock, maybe a little later. I had just opened the door, and zooming past me was my brother and sister yelling for me to follow them. They pulled me out into our driveway and told me to look up. Directly above our house was this floating red orb. I mean, this thing was so close that at first I felt like I could get on my roof and touch it. We sat there staring at it for a good while, and then it started to move. It began moving upward in a diagonal motion and stopped right above our local high school. We sat there in awe for about 5 minutes when the damn thing starts to free fall towards the ground. My family and I were pretty scared at that moment, and we didn't know if it was a bomb or not. It finally hit the ground in the distance, and then nothing happened at all. This is where the actual weirdness comes into play. My sister catches this whole thing on video. We began watching and noticed something zoom up to this floating red orb and then zoom off. I don't know what the hell it is. Maybe you all can figure it out. The unknown object flies in from 5 seconds to 12 seconds, and then back in around 27 seconds. The big red orb in the middle is what we saw. The little red orb above is just a dead pixel. The actual video described in this story can be found in the description below. A link to it was included with the story in the original Reddit post.